Hello guys, welcome back to the Top Bins football channel. I have to discuss this breaking news update. It'll be impossible for me not to discuss it and make a video. Frank Lampard sacked as Chelsea manager after 18 months in charge at the football club. If I'm being completely honest, I have actually mixed views. To start, I've always been Lampard in. To start with, I've always been, obviously a huge fan of Lampard, as of every Chelsea fan has been. But after hearing the news this morning that it broke out, I've had a bit of reflection, and I've really tried to determine. I've tried to separate my fantasy from reality, and I think a lot of Chelsea fans maybe need to do that as well. Separate the player from the manager. Frank Lampard, obviously, club legend, top scorer in the club's history. He's got a glowing reputation, and when he became Chelsea manager, everyone loved it. Everyone was willing for him to succeed. Everyone wanted him to succeed, and they were so excited to see him in the job because they know that he loves the club. They know what his status was, and it had a symbolic gesture. It kind of meant for Chelsea fans and for the club when Lampard came in that this was going to be the time that Chelsea would start to show maybe a bit of loyalty and a bit of homegrown essences and going back to their roots in a sense. And Frank Lampard kind of symbolised that, and then he brought through all the youth players, of course. We had to take that into account, what he's done for Chelsea and bringing through the youth players, and he's revolutionised the club in a sense. After the sacking of Maurizio Sarri, Frank Lampard came in. I know Hudson-Odoi was in the squad through Sarri's tenure, but Lampard came in, showed faith in Hudson-Odoi. Not only him, but also brought through Abraham, brought through Mount, brought through Reece James, brought through Tamori. So many names, Billy Gilmore as well, and many Chelsea youngsters got their chance under Frank Lampard, and we'll go on to that more in detail later on. I probably will do a video on this as well with Scando and Joey and possibly Donny as well, maybe a more in-depth debate. But for now, I just thought I'd do a video just myself discussing it as a Chelsea fan, of course. So, going back to what I said, separating reality from fantasy. Every Chelsea fan, myself included, had this fantasy that Frank Lampard would be given loads of time, would transform the club into a club that brings through youth, is very pure, maybe restore some longevity, not just to Chelsea, but to the Premier League. And I'll also debate that in a second. Hang on, there's a lot of things to discuss. Yes. So that was the fantasy, that Frank Lampard, because of his status, because of who he was, Chelsea fans would have loved to see him be part of the club for many more years to come. However, the reality. Is it really a terrible decision? I'm not so sure. But I know Frank Lampard has his reputation and everything, but you look at Chelsea's form. I'm going to go on to discuss what separates him from the other managers that had been given time in a sec. But Chelsea haven't won against any of the teams above them in the Premier League table this season, apart from West Ham. West Ham are the only team they've beaten. Apart from that, they haven't managed a win against any of those sides. And that, to me, is seriously worrying. Take Arsenal as well, 2 points behind us. Obviously, we all know that the performance that we put in against them, which was pretty disgraceful, to be honest. So even Arsenal, who are down 11th, we lost miserably to them, and we got to play them again this season, for the second time. But I'm not convinced going into that. Basically, what I'm saying is Chelsea, their record against the top clubs was not good at all, and you take last season as well. The points they took off the top teams, I guess you'd say. We beat Tottenham at White Hart Lane. I remember Chelsea winning at the Emirates Stadium as well. But however, Manchester United did the double over us last season. Yes, we won in the cup, but they did the double over us in the league plus in the EFL Cup. Bloody hell, throat. Sorry, Liverpool. They did the double over us as well. Obviously, title winners. Manchester City. Obviously, we did beat them at home. So I think last season, that's the thing. Last season we underachieved. We did surprisingly well in a lot of those matches last season. We did beat City at home, as I've just referred to. Quite a surprising result, really, but nevertheless, a fantastic one for Chelsea fans. However, my point still stands. We have not collected enough points off the big teams in order to save Lampard's job, I don't think. I think that we've done terribly against our competitors. They should be our competitors. We are Chelsea Football Club. We should be fighting for the top of the table, and therefore should be taking points off these teams. So yeah, I mean that's one point. You look at Chelsea's form. Won only 2 of their last 7 matches, 8 matches, I believe, actually. So the wheels have fell off. Yes, Frank Lampard. Yes, it was kind of like a dip in form. Every manager goes through that. Of course they do. But the thing is, I couldn't see a plan with Chelsea. To be honest, that's one thing I would give the Chelsea board in their defence, because they obviously couldn't see a plan with Lampard in charge, and a lot of the fans couldn't either. I remember listening to quite a lot of fans' opinions, on a radio talk show, and calling in and expressing their views. But yes, I couldn't see a plan really, personally. I believe, don't get me wrong, I believe Lampard could have turned it around, to be honest. I think I would have put faith in him to turn the team around. However, it was looking incredibly unlikely, I've got to admit. The game against Leicester, in particular, Chelsea showed no desire, no plan, no understanding. Absolutely nothing in that game was good for Chelsea. There were no good points whatsoever. And that was seriously worrying. That's probably one of the most worrying things. There was just no plan, as I keep saying. But with every club, there has to be some sort of like direction and view of where they can go. You take Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and Mikel Arteta when they went through bad runs of form, and but what saved them, I think what saved them from getting the sack is the fact that they both have a little bit more experience. I'm comparing to Frank Lampard here. They've got more experience than Frank Lampard. The board probably didn't think that, obviously, but they thought to themselves, well, this manager has a little bit of experience, has some tactical knowledge. We have had some good times under them. You take Arteta, for instance, learnt under Guardiola. He's obviously got a lot of ideas to implement and had a decent amount of experience working as a number 2. So he could definitely come good. And then you take Solskjaer. He's had experience, I believe, he's managed in another country, hasn't he? A few other countries. He's also managed Cardiff. I'm aware of that. I'm sure Solskjaer has had a bit more managerial experience than most people would think, and that's probably what kept him in the saving grace with Manchester United. So yeah, I think that's what saved them. Lampard, on the other hand, don't get me wrong, I think the board acted too quickly. I do still believe that. However, Lampard, I'm sort of like trying to see it from their point of view though. Lampard had spent a lot of money. Chelsea brought in a lot of players this season. They obviously, with the top 4 finish last season, Chelsea wanted to kick on this season. Okay, I think that's something that a lot of people aren't really understanding. The Chelsea board, obviously they have a reputation for not having too much patience, but they wanted more this season. Lampard overachieved last season, brilliant. They got top 4, fantastic. But this season they wanted to kick on. They wanted to become part of the title race. They wanted to close the gap on both Liverpool and Manchester City. They wanted to close that gap, which hasn't happened. And the board wanted to see results, really. They want to see Chelsea kind of challenging for the top. kicking on from last season, Chelsea, the board wouldn't have been happy, and they're obviously not happy at the moment with Chelsea slumping down to mid-table, considering last season we didn't have those big signings in, yet we still managed to finish fourth in the Premier League. So, of course they're going to expect an uprise this season. They're going to expect a better finish, and I don't think you can really argue with that. It's obviously expected. Yes, the players do need more than half a season to fully integrate with the team. I fully support that idea, and I've always been saying that. However, we know the Chelsea board aren't that patient. Plus, you could argue that Frank Lampard may not have been getting the better out of some of them. Timo Werner comes to mind. It's just an idea to think about, really, that I'm sort of putting out there for you guys to question, maybe comment on the video about. Regarding Frank Lampard's experience, obviously he only had 1 year at Derby County Championship side before coming to Chelsea. So it was very early for him to make that step to such a big club so early on in his career. And when Frank Lampard first took the job, I think a lot of Chelsea fans got carried away with the thought of, oh, it's Frank Lampard, it's a club legend, he's going to be back at his home. They were romanticising, over the idea of Lampard succeeding at his, at the club that made him, really, in a sense, and he's done so much for the club. It's perfect relationship sort of thing. Everyone got carried away with that idea, but the reality is Frank Lampard, as I say, had only had 1 year of managerial experience, and then went into the job at Chelsea, and it was a bit too big for him, you might say. Certainly has proven that this season. I think not maybe last season, as I keep saying, he overachieved. You have to say, brought in all this youth, got top 4, and some critics have been harsh but fair. Chelsea, they probably got top 4 last season, not just because of their own strength, but also because a lot of the chasing packs just weren't up to scratch and were dropping points. So yeah, it was a big job. I think Lampard will be happy. He'll be so happy about his time at Chelsea. Chelsea will be thankful for having Frank Lampard. We got to thank him, really, for what he did to our club, and brought through the youth players and showed faith in them. And that begs the question, with the new manager coming in, with a more experienced manager coming in like Tuchel or Tuchel, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Will he give as much chance to the youth players now? It's a debate to have, as I say, with Skander and Joey, maybe at a later point. But it's a definite point. The Callum Hudson-Odoi and the Tammy Abrahams, will they be thinking that, I'm probably not going to get my chance here? It's a manager with a different philosophy coming in, more experience, more used to winning trophies, and in order to win trophies, you need, experience is key. Quality is key. And a lot of the young players obviously don't have any experience in title challenges or cup runs, and that's going to be a massive factor. It's going to be interesting to see what the new manager does with those players, the likes of Abraham, James, Mount, Hudson-Odoi, list goes on. I'm disappointed. Personally, I would have liked to see Lampard being given till the end of the season at least, because I think that he would have been able, I believe he would have been able to turn things around. Even though it looks dire, it has to be said, it looks dire in Chelsea's recent performances and recent games. I believed in Frank Lampard, and I thought that he would be given to the end of the season at least, because this season, in terms of silverware, my hopes are done. I'm not expecting anything this season, really. Given the run we've been on, we're out of the Premier League title race. Yes, we're still in the FA Cup. We'll see what we can do there. Champions League against Atletico Madrid. It's a massive uphill task. Obviously, got knocked out of the EFL Cup a while back now. So in terms of silverware, I didn't have any expectations for this season. So I think that would have played a part in leaving Lampard here till the end of the season, because I didn't see what else could have, what could have gone wrong in a sense. I think Lampard just could have been given the time to the end of the season at least to try and turn things around. But now they've acted quickly and they brought Tuchel in. I mean, who knows? They might expect more of a title charge from Chelsea, but nothing's guaranteed. So yeah, I personally would have liked to see him being given time until the end of the season at least, see what he could have done. If nothing had improved by the end of the season, I think sacking him would have been probably the correct decision. I think in the middle of the season, though, it wasn't the correct decision. So yeah, I'm going to have a video on this in more detail at some point, probably with a few others. But yes, I hope you enjoyed this video, guys, and catch you all soon. Thank you.